Hello and welcome to the Discriminating Gamer, the Jason Momoa of board game review shows. Except where Jason Momoa is Aquaman, most people simply want to drown me. Speaking of oceans, ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to go ahead and take a look at Pacific Victory from Columbia Games. In Pacific Victory from Columbia Games, two players take on the roles of the various belligerents in the Pacific during World War II. One player will take on the role of the Japanese, while the other will play the Americans, the Commonwealth, and the Chinese forces as they struggle to defend themselves from the fascist onslaught. The game board consists of a map of the Pacific Ocean, as well as parts of Asia, Southeast Asia, Australia, and the United States. Now, players, of course, have their own blocks. The Japanese have orange blocks. The United States has blue. The Chinese have yellow. The British and Commonwealth, of course, have brown. You're going to go ahead and, like all block war games, orient the side with the face side showing you. So there's the fog of war. You don't know exactly what units your opponent will have out at any given moment. And critically, you also won't know what the strength level of those units is. Now, you have, of course, various kinds of units. You have land units, mostly infantry. You'll have air units, different kinds of planes. You'll have naval units, ships, subs, etc. Each unit is going to have some information. It's going to have the sides with the four different kinds of pips, four strength levels of pips. You got 1, 2, 3, and 4. The 4 is the strongest, the 1 is the weakest. That's going to determine how many die you roll in combat. It's also going to be the health of the unit. You're also going to have on there the unit's class, A, B, C, D. That means at what time during battle did they roll. A units roll first, B units roll second, C, D, etc., etc. You're also going to have down in the bottom right-hand corner a series of numbers that show what you have to hit in order to hit air units, in order to hit naval units, in order to hit ground units. Now, on a typical game turn, each player will roll 2 die. This will be their initiative roll. Whoever gets the highest roll will decide who gets to take the initiative on that, who gets to go first on that turn, either themselves or their adversary. Once you do that, whoever whose turn it is to go is going to go ahead and start moving their units. You move their units into a combat zone using the movement rules. Typically, the naval units move 2, all things being equal. The air and the land units are going to move 1. Now, you're also moving into attack, and there's terrain limitations too, so you got to pay attention. There's things like, jungles, there's mountains, there's different things you have to pay attention to as you're moving. Also, too, you can only move so many units into spaces with the kind of the major areas and the minor areas. The major areas are kind of the six-sided fortresses. Then you've also got the circles, which are kind of the minor areas. And there's kind of stacking limits for how many you can move to attack in each of those levels. And there's stacking limits for how many you can keep in a level at a given time. Now, while you're moving, there's also something else you can do, and this is kind of a strategic move. You've got different kind of strategic leaders. For instance, the Americans have MacArthur and Nimitz. They've also got a British strategic leader. I can't recall the name at the moment. You've got the Japanese, who have kind of an imperial army and an imperial navy leader. And what you do is you can actually rotate those down a strength level in order to move the many units that were rotated strategically around the board. You can move like up to, I think, 10 spaces to relocate from base to base. You can also have guys just do these raids, meaning they just get a shot off, they have to do 1 round of combat, and then they retreat. So you can do these kind of different strategic movements and strategic raids as well during this movement phase. Now, after the first person is gone, they set up everything, then the second person can go, and they can set up their kind of what they want to do. They can move guys into a battle, but they're going to come in a round late. You can also do your own raiding, your own strategic movement, and once the other side is gone, then you go ahead and you kind of play off each battle. Battles take place, as I say, where you set up all your units, and you kind of course, have to decide, which are they targeting land units, are they targeting air units. you have to roll the number of pips at the top of the block. You have to roll that number of die, and then, as I say, it will show you on the block itself what number you have to hit that specific unit: air unit, land unit, naval unit. As soon as you take a casualty, you of course you rotate immediately to the next highest pip level, which means if you come into a battle with 3, you take a hit, you're only going to roll 2 when it's your time to roll. But this means also you're going to be going back and forth, so you're not going to roll all your units at the same time. You may roll some of your units first, then some of your other units second. If ever the two classes, like you got an A and an A or a B and B, if they're tied by the sides, the defender will get to roll first. There's also some, as I say, there's some of the terrain restrictions. In some of the terrain, you're going to have to take 2 hits on the defender in order to knock them down one full thing. It's called a double defense, and it's a way to kind of make things harder for the attacker in some of these regions. After you resolve combat, you're going to go ahead and make sure all your units are in supply. If they can't be supplied, trace a line back to their supply line, and they actually lose a pip. They go down in strength. And then you're going to add up all of your production levels. Geographically, there's many of the cities and territories will have a production level. You add those all up, and that's essentially how much you can spend to either knock up a pip on blocks on the board or bring a new block onto the board at strength level 1. Now, generally speaking, I believe there's a limitation. You can only do up to 2 turns in any hex. I think all things being equal, it changes for some of the terrain, and there's some other modifiers there, generally speaking, but that's generally how that's going to go. Now, what's going to happen is the Japanese player, if ever they get to 25 production values, they win instantly. It's a decisive game. Otherwise, by the end of the scenario, you're going to calculate how many each side has. To get a decisive victory for the Allies, you have to knock the Japanese down to 5 or below production. Otherwise, you're going to kind of calculate whether it's a major victory, minor victory, depending on how much production you have by the end of the scenario. Whoever has the most production by the end of the scenario wins Pacific Victory. So I played several block war games from Columbia Games, and generally I like this system. I think it's fun. You know, it's very similar in many ways to something like an Axis and Allies, but it's so much more nuanced because you have more decisions with your unit's strength. It's not just, hit, he's gone. It's you rotate the strength. And I should mention too, combats only last 3 rounds, so you got to get things done quick or try to grind them down through a long war of attrition. And then, of course, they can always rotate back up during the production phase, so you got to be on the ball with these battles and hopefully be rolling well as well. So I generally like these games. Now, word on the production here. First of all, artwork's great. It's a paper mat, and I'm not a fan of that. I wish you could have mounted boards. I don't think Columbia does mounted boards. I don't think I've played a game with them that has a mounted board, which is a shame because some of these games really deserve a mounted board. But, for what it is, it looks good. The map looks good. Good representations. The hexes are big, so they can hold the blocks in them generally very well. What I really like about this production, it comes with 2 rule books. At least mine did. It came with 2 rule books, and that was freaking awesome because you can each have one. You can each look stuff up. I really like that. I wish more games like this would come with 2 rule books. I think that's a great touch. It plays, fairly quick once you know what you're doing, in the sense that you can go boom, 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 boom. Except you do sometimes get that analysis paralysis over, well, do I want to attack here, but I don't have the strength, or, I think I've got units that can do it, but that terrain's really going to screw me, that terrain modifier. So you can run into some AP problems during those combat phases. Once combat goes, like I say, it's quick and it's fun. I love combat in this game. I love that I'm going in and I'm taking a shot. Fog of War, I don't know what the other guy's got there. I think I know what he's got, but I'm not sure. And is he going to knock me down before I can kind of get my full salvo fired? And it's really good. You feel like you're taking risks with every combat here, even minor combats, even rage. You feel like I'm taking a risk here, and I like that a lot. It feels. I mean, what I'm saying is, it feels like there's high stakes with every combat you do. You play a game like AA, and sometimes you can't know going into things. Well, I'm going to win, or I probably won't win, but maybe I'll do some damage, or I just won't do it. And here, from the lowest battle to the highest battle, it seems like there's high stakes. Now, of course, depending on the general flow of the game, some stakes are going to be higher, but you don't want to risk these units if you don't have to. And it works very, very well. It's a very tight combat system that makes you make those tough strategic choices. Production round moves very quickly. You add stuff up, and then you're deciding what you want to pip up. Usually, you can do that fairly easily. And it's good. It's a tight game. It's a strong game. Now, my favorite Columbia Games game remains Napoleon. I really like that one quite a bit. I really like Julius Caesar too. I like that with the cards. Pacific Victory I put probably on par with Julius Caesar. I may like Julius Caesar just a hair more because I do like the card system in Julius Caesar quite a bit. But I like the theme here a little bit better, and I like it, I don't know, it just feels a little bit more epic, I guess. I haven't played Julius Caesar in a long time. I need to go back and revisit that. But I really like Pacific Victory. It's an easy game to learn, easy game to get through. I mean, there's a lot of little nuances and stuff you will have you will have to learn. But nothing that's just incredibly weighty here. Good game, good solid game. Really enjoyed Pacific Victory. If you're looking for a good block war game, this one does it very well. Recommendation for the discriminating gamer for Pacific Victory is buy it. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, once again for joining us today on The Discriminating Gamer. As always, we ask you to please leave a comment for us on YouTube, on Wargame Geek, on our Facebook page, or on thediscriminatinggamer.com. We ask you to please like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter. We are The Discriminating Gamer, ladies and gentlemen, and who knows, maybe when Aquaman 2 rolls around, they'll let me be the supervillain. I could be the game master. So, Aquaman, you've come to my lair. Will you live or will you die? Roll the dice. It's a D4, and you had to roll a 6. Oh, you have a +2 modifier, and you rolled the 4. But I have a card that says you must trade wool. Oh, you've already got 12 victory points, which is what was needed to win. Curse you!
Please somebody help me on my feet again. And I don't know where I'm going, and I don't know where I've been. Please somebody help me on the solid ground. It's a long time, and I'll be dying. Once a year I wind up in the band.
The Discriminating Gamer, proudly serving the board game community for 14 years. In dog years.